Hey guys, Youngblood with you for another episode of Summarize the Verse. This one covering two episodes from May 11th and May 18th, since life got a little bit too busy last week and I couldn't really get around to making the last week's summary. So starting off with your May 11th episode, we get some really good information regarding the player interaction system and the progress they're making towards the inner thought system as part of that. Now this work means that you're going to be able to interact with the environment or make your character act without the dependence of really kind of standing at an object. For example, you could use an emote or maybe exit your seat by using the system, which looks to be activated via a hotkey, then selecting what option you want based on your screen's display. They didn't say that specifically, but that's kind of how it presented, at least in my mind. They've been working on their air traffic control system, which is responsible for how the game assigns you a pad when you're spawning a ship or landing the ship, and then the interaction your ship has with that platform. In the character world, we get a lot of work being done to the character status system, which really focuses on things like breathing and oxygen usage and how your character reacts to suit punctures and other issues that your character is going to face that are soon going to be present in the game. The pickup and carry animation is also progressing through usables and player interaction systems to basically allow you to move things around and place them where you need them. With AI, conversation technology has been developed as part of the subsumption system, which is now in the hands of design teams to test. In the audio world, the Prospector audio has been finished, and they're working on the Cutlass Black now. And by the way, the Prospector is looking great and sounding phenomenal, and the cockpit area is as good as it was sold, so it's a ship I'm really looking forward to flying around. Graphics has been working to implement the volumetric fog from Lumberyard, which we actually get more information about in the following episode of Around the Verse, and it gives a much better feel to the environment. In the visual world, we get the atmospheric entry progressing with engine trails and burns through Atmo that are optimized and entered into the game, basically to give you that overall feeling that you're no longer in zero-G space, you're now in a planet's atmosphere. The shoulder-fired railgun is now finishing up effects for charging and firing as well, and the LMG is still moving forward. Now, in ship weapons, we have reached a state to where the Preacher Distortion Scatter Gun and the APAR Scatter Shot have both been completed. And speaking of ship news, the 600 by Origin is now in its final stages of concepting and should be moving on to final approval soon, which is very exciting considering that should be our next concept ship. The Reclaimer's been moving along nicely and now has the exterior completed, including the claw, as well as the interior habitation area, technical zones, and the salvage area has all been completed. The Reclaimer is looking phenomenal. They're also working on derelict ships, which you could obviously imagine connects to the Reclaimer in a certain way, specifically being blown into different structural areas and having that work being completed, and how you're going to be able to interact with them, like putting into effects like aging and deterioration to actually give a feel of this being a derelict type of craft. The Mist Razor's also had its hull completed, and they're working on the damage states now, while also finishing the LODs and getting it flight ready. And the Hull C is now mostly completed, while they're focusing on maneuvering thrusters being placed and worked into that system, and finalizing some polish between the interior and the exterior to make it all feel a little bit more congruent. The new space station type, the truck stop, has been entering final art phases, and they're working to bring it up to final art quality before moving forward. And the animation teams have been working to improve the cover system, as well as implementing takedowns from various angles for killing and disabling your enemies that are actually nearby your character, basically taking them down without using a gun. The spotlight in this episode was surrounding the player interaction system, which was really pretty awesome, and it really touched on just about everything in the game because it's all tied together, and it's a really huge undertaking, with this being actually the third version of that system since 2.5. And moving past the initial use option, which we've gotten very familiar with, but it was very limited in its functionality. The overall goal of the new system is to take into account what object is in question and the state that the player character is in to determine what options are presented to you in kind of a fluid browsing approach. This is really meant to be, I guess, depending on how your character is and what's around you, it's going to present that. So, if you're in a calm situation and you're looking at something, you're probably not going to see, holy shit, I need to run to the other side of the room type of deal. So, it's all going to be kind of dependent on those things. And this really meant getting this level of complexity that there was a requirement of higher tech than was in place today. So, anything that's now being designed with this new item interaction system is actually going to be a part of Item System 2.0. Now, from the May 18th episode, we get a ton of really good information, including more efforts on the item system, including the fact that the M50, being the smallest and simplest ship in the game, from a component standpoint, and I mean full, complete ship, was now being used as the testbed for the new system, and is really the first one to have its full implementation of the item system actually created. The teams have been working on the ship-in-ship mechanics that allow you to carry another ship through space, with probably the most prevalent example being the Merlin in the Constellation, but this also includes carrying a rover in the cargo hold without it destroying the ship, which is pretty important considering in 3.0 we're getting the Dragonfly, and there's going to be a lot of people carrying a Dragonfly in the back with their Freelancer or Constellation or whatever. The ship quantum drives have been upgraded to allow you to store coordinates to make selection at those points a little bit easier later on down the road, and the new quantum drive is now connected through the pipe system to actually impact fuel and power in a more realistic and balanced way. They're also working on some improvements to the visual and audio pieces of quantum travel to give you a more immersive experience to the pilot. There's been an autopilot mode that's been built into the IFCS, which is mostly focused on takeoff and landing, which we kind of have today, but it's a separated mode at this point, and I'm hoping this actually bleeds into long-range travel as well, because I think it would be really beneficial to be able to just set a pilot and be able to walk around your ship. They're also working on the display of the thrusters to make sure they actually look how they should based on the movements, not just firing off but not pointing in the right directions, for example. In the world of ships, the Aurora rework continues to move forward, staying focused in the cockpit area, which we saw a couple weeks back, finalizing the Aurora ES and LN seats, and really working on the engines concurrently. They've also finished up the gray box stage on the animations for the Terrapin, so that ship's actually moving along a lot faster than I expected it to, and we actually got a little peek at what was some cockpit canopy armor that I hadn't really seen before, but it should probably give you better protection, though it probably comes at the cost of decreased visibility. The art team's now been working to implement an eye color system, allowing players to kind of pick the color of the eyes for their characters, which ranges from traditional colors, your blues, your browns, your greens, to some of the more exotic colors like yellow and purple based on the examples that we saw. They've also added a fully rigged female marine, medium marine, and a heavy male outlaw that are going to be ready to go into the armory as soon as we can move forward and they finish up the helmet interiors. And most of the behind the scenes in this episode were more focused on the lighting and the new fog implementations that I talked about just a few minutes ago. There was a lot there that was really interesting, but since we really only focus on the new stuff in these videos, we're going to really focus on things like including that finding out that planetary lighting is completed. It's completely derived from the atmosphere of the planet, the placement of the star as the primary source of light, and the angles that you're facing on the planet. All of that impacts how the lighting displays on the planet, which is really cool. Now, some of those are going to change in real time based on gradients, and that's not limited to planet. That should be really anywhere. But it's going to be based on situations like being injured and seeing in more grays than you would in colors. The new dynamic fog system is totally impacted by lighting, and it uses systems to determine what is in the way of the light source, how much fog is there, do you get shadows, and basically showcases the right color and density based on the environmental surroundings. It was a really, really cool piece, but definitely more behind the scenes than updates on what's to come. So there you have it. That's a 2-for-1 overview of the last two around the verses that we got. If you guys have questions on any of that, please let me know. Get your comments in. Otherwise, stay tuned for a lot more coming soon. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.